Welcome to our podcast. Don't forget to push that button that says subscribe. I believe that what I want to share with you today is important, as the Word of God is always important, but especially in these difficult times when we're all continuing to be impacted in some way by this pandemic, where the ravages are still with us and every challenge that goes with it. If it were possible, I would give this particular word of encouragement every single week when I have to share the Word of God with you. And it comes from Galatians chapter 6, verse 6 and 9, where it talks about to never get tired of doing what is right. Let me start out by talking about the Israelites and their escape from slavery in Egypt, but the focus of what I want to share with you today comes from Paul's letter to the church at Galatia. I once heard a preacher ask a question, and I asked that question of you. What do you think Satan's greatest weapon is against the people of God? I thought surely that most of us would say that the greatest weapon against the people of God is sickness, disease, crime, relationship drama, the loss of a loved one, the betrayal of a friend, or the loss of material possessions, or a guilty verdict. But in fact, when you look at that list, none of those things are Satan's greatest weapon. All of those challenges are devastating and heartbreaking, to be sure, and nobody wants that kind of trouble in their life. But those weapons are like ammunition in a BB gun compared to Satan's greatest weapon of mass destruction, and that is the weapon of discouragement. Satan's greatest weapon against the people of God is discouragement, and the reason why is because you can be a few minutes, a few hours, a few days, a few weeks, a few months, or a few years away from what you have been praying for. And discouragement can creep in and weigh so heavily on you that just at the brink of your blessing, you will give up and have a desire to maybe turn back. You're standing at the brink and getting ready to cross over into the answer to your prayer request and the blessing that God has for you. And the powerful weapon of discouragement can cause you to back up and to back down and miss out on what God has for you. You know, my prayer all the time is, Lord, don't let me get to the edge of what you have promised to me. And for one reason or another, I give up and turn back because I get discouraged. And that discouragement makes me forget about all of the promises that you have made to me. Paul says to the church at Galatia, don't get discouraged. Paul says to the church at Galatia and to every one of you and to us and to me and to you, don't give up and don't allow yourself to get to the point where you don't feel like going on. Your blessing is right around the corner. You're standing at the edge of a promise. Don't let me get to the point where, and don't let you get to the point where you don't feel like going on. In the King James Version of that text, it says, let's not be weary in well-doing. There is a relationship between weary and being discouraged. A weary individual feels tired and worn out and worn down and burnt out and exhausted and fatigued and spent and drained and fed up. Maybe you have felt weary. Maybe you've had a time when you've said, I've had it up to here. Anybody ever felt weary like that? But the state of being discouraged goes much deeper. When you're weary, it usually points to physical tiredness and exhaustion, but discouragement is quite different. When you are discouraged, you lose confidence. When you're discouraged, you lose enthusiasm. When you're weary, if you rest for a moment, you can get your confidence back. You can be spent and drained, but still enthusiastic. You can be worn out and worn down and burnt out, but you can recover. But when you are discouraged, your spirit can be broken. And when your spirit is broken, your faith is affected. And when your faith is affected, you can find yourself giving up on God.